key motivator for starting this channel is that I basically do this stuff in my free time, normally anyway. For years, I've gathered idle notes on the things I cover, because I enjoy doing it fundamentally. Often it's very solitary, and the only person interested in my notes is myself. I started my channel, in large part, to just archive my own thoughts. Eventually, I hope to make videos that are less focused on versus debates, but that is my own primary interest. Further, in my own small observations of people that cover similar topics, it's often that I find they don't actually know what they're talking about, and are, if you watch my previous videos you'll know, just blabbing, frankly. Just saying words. I like to think I know more than the average person in the fields that I cover, because I've spent so long at it, but if I don't, I try to research it as best I can with my limited free time. For example, while Buster McTunder was so on the face of it wrong in his Gears video on Helldivers, even just for the simple fact that he failed to account that a single planet civilization likely cannot handle an invasion from one that has achieved spaceflight. And it doesn't get far beyond for the simple reason that
Sir Isaac Newton is the deadliest son of a bitch in space!
But I still wanted to at least play through the original trilogy again for the first time in a decade, just to make sure there wasn't something he or I missed, or to check his claims, which weren't entirely accurate. In all the videos I have ever responded to, there's yet to be one I've felt so passionate about correcting as the next one. This is the first and only of his videos I have seen, but it's enough. In the case of Eckhart's Ladder, while Eckhart is so consistently wrong in what he asserts, to the extent I sincerely don't think he's read the things he says he has, his deliberately crafted tone and delivery is so inoffensive, by design, that it does not grate inherently on the mind and eardrums. We aren't dealing with that here, sadly. To be clear about the topic of discussion, I don't care about it. I played Warframe for a day when it came out, because it was free, and never again. In fact, the only reason I'm even aware of it to this day is because of
and happy birthday to Nick.
That being said, the claims this video makes are so laughably false that you can only conclude either the claims made are outright conscious lies, or he simply has not done even the most bare bones of research for his video. Considering the rate at which he churns out his videos, I'm willing to wager it's at least one of these. I want you to really pay attention to what he says. Things so demonstrably false, any person could easily debunk them if they so much as opened the source material itself. Things very easy to verify. We are talking about open the first page of the book, read the second paragraph, read the first sentence level of most basic requirements of research that he will accuse others of not doing. Maybe that's the point, that he is doing a bit and shouldn't be taken seriously. I don't know, I don't watch his videos. For someone with a pretty deep reservoir of knowledge concerning a niche and generally useless topic in any other facet of society, this man's almost pathological, even gleeful ignorance struck a chord with me so much, I had to make a video. In a very strange way, I almost feel as though this video was made for me in particular to respond to.
Well, hello everyone, how are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge. In particular, a totally different survival challenge than anything you've seen before. We're gonna do something different today. You know how I like to do things differently. So you guys should know how it works. Normally I take 4 different universes, factions, characters, whatever, and I chuck them into some sort of situation to see if they can survive. But we're gonna do things a little bit differently in this video. We're gonna have a misconception section. I know, you're all like, what? Fuck you, Root, what are you doing? You're throwing some curveballs and shit. You can't be doing that. I don't like change. But that's too bad, because you're about to get some fucking change. We're gonna have a misconception section, because more so than most universes I do, Star Wars and Warframe, their communities have a lot of misconceptions about their own universe that they like. Some massive fucking misconceptions. And so this doesn't sound like me just shitting on Star Wars and Warframe the whole time, because I actually like Star Wars and Warframe. I don't want to shit on them the whole time. You just put it all in one section. Anytime someone says some bullshit or any arguments that I get a lot of in the comment section or in debate streams or whatever, which happens often, once a week, you should show up. It's really fun. I always hear the exact same points being made, and they're bullshit. And so we're just gonna make like a whole section right here where I'm just gonna go over all the bullshit stuff. That way, when I actually talk about things like speed and power and all that stuff in the actual video, I don't have to stop the video to be like, by the way, this is a bunch of shit. It's not true. Here's the real stuff. It's just gonna seem like I'm shitting on them. I'm not shitting on them. I want to be very clear about that. So first up, we're gonna cover the misconceptions that Star Wars has made, because I probably think that Star Wars has more misconceptions. Don't feel bad, Star Wars fans. Star Wars is considerably older than Warframe is. It's had a lot more time to let those misconceptions gel and fester. First misconception of the Star Wars fans is that Jedi and Sith are planetary bare minimum characters who are capable of blowing up solar systems, and there's these massively powerful cosmic beings that can just do all kinds of crazy over-the-top bullshit. The only reason why the Death Star was even required is because Palpatine didn't want to reveal to the entire universe that he was capable of that level of power. But in reality, Palpatine himself could have just destroyed the planet with no problem. Wouldn't have even been an issue. It's very casual stuff. This is total bullshit. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of feats that people like to talk about when they talk about this level of power that Force users have, but you know, they're all bullshit.
Our first example of why this guy knows nothing, and I can understand why if you're a casual observer or layman that you would think this. It deserves its own video, but in just about every single piece of fiction that exists, there are discrepancies between the best feats characters display and the worst. Star Wars gets isolated because of its popularity, and I would argue there's other motivators as well. But if you look at other media equally as critically, you can find every argument you want to debunk the better feats for any character you dislike. Here's Omni-Man flying at faster than light speeds. Here's Omni-Man flying to Europe and back, with an average speed of around Mach 70.
Hi, honey. If you have a sec, could you pick up a few things for dinner? Well, I was thinking some tagliatelle from that restaurant in Rome, and maybe that wine from Provence, the rosé. Yeah. Thanks, sweetie. Love you.
Yet here is Omni-Man struggling to catch a guy who is for all intents and purposes a normal old man, being teleported around who has no powers.
You thought that could hurt me?
No. That was just to get your attention.
You're too slow!
Jesus, Nolan, right for the throat. After everything that we've been through.
Keep out of this, Cecil.
You're too slow!
You know I can't do that, Nolan. I've faced death more times than I can count, but I'll be damned if that didn't put my balls in my throat. Does he know? No? Well, what's he gonna do when he finds out, huh?
This is pointless. You can't stop me.
Yeah, you're right. I can't. But I can do the same thing I've been doing since I figured out you were a lying piece of shit. I can buy us a little more time.
In fact, I don't actually think it's him that's doing the teleporting. It's normal desk men, tens or hundreds of miles away, who have to deal with the inefficiencies of lightspeed lag. Omni-Man, if he is close enough, can move faster than the neurons in your brain, firing signals telling you that he's even there and to dodge out of the way. And yet in Invincible's story, he fails often to catch mundane humans. This guy murdered the Flash of this universe rather easily just the other day. It shouldn't be happening, but it did. Here he is taking a satellite-powered nuclear-scale hit on the chin and later powering through it. Here he is getting momentarily dazed by an assault rifle round.
Oh, shit. Oh! No, wait. Just wait. You've been spying on me? On my family?
No, it was for your family's protection.
You were always so pathetic, Donald. Cecil's little lapdog.
Run now!
You're too slow!
I don't want to get too drawn into this. I mention it as a forward so you understand. While Star Wars has Jedi dying to mere blasters, in just the previous movie you had Obi-Wan, who was only a knight at the time, getting little more than thrown around by asteroid-destroying fire cannons and a missile.
Dad! No!
with no damage. Then look what happened when his pure went up against Dooku. So logically, the blasters, if they're as weak as many suggest, shouldn't do anything to a Jedi. It is frankly part and parcel of any series that these discrepancies, even in relatively condensed stories, are observable anywhere, and we will explore it another time. Let's focus on what he claims here, however.
First misconception of the Star Wars fans is that Jedi and Sith are planetary, bare minimum characters who are capable of blowing up solar systems, and there's these massively powerful cosmic beings that can just do all kinds of crazy, over-the-top bullshit.
It's not bullshit. You just don't know what you're talking about. Tales of the Jedi is in many ways foundational lore for much of the EU and Disney canon. Holocrons, the origin of the Sith as a species, things of that nature. It has a long-standing legacy in a franchise that never deserved it. Disney even shamelessly took the name, paving over its legacy and watering down the word association to a pale imitation. One of the Sith of this era, who himself was only joint second in the runnings of a society where might makes right, destroyed 2 stars by himself. He may have done it via tapping into the power of his ship, but that was fundamentally his power, and something he's capable of doing with even the last embers of its power. Using power-enhancing artifacts is something a great many Sith do throughout history. I would even argue they're somewhat notorious for it. Despite all of this, Sado, while one of the greatest Sith in history, is never once stated to be the strongest Sith of all time in any out-of-universe source. In fact, there's around half a dozen other Sith who are explicitly given that accolade, or are stated to be stronger than Sado himself. Naga Sado suffers being at the bottom of a scaling chain of Sith who teach a student all they know, then die, who teach a Sith all they know, then die, such as it goes. Exar Kun would come into the possession of that ship, and rather than draw its power into himself, saw it as more use as a pawn to take care of 2 birds with 1 stone. Alima Keto isn't even a Sith, and she possessed its power. Most of you won't even know who that is. It may have killed her in the process as intended, but a nobody sorceress manipulated the power and destroyed 10 stars with it. To claim these higher end feats are non-existent just demonstrates how little you actually know. Tales of the Jedi, both in its comic form and the companion RPG, speak explicitly on the worst ravages of the dark side, on how in times long past, misuse of the Force has destroyed star systems. We have here this nameless sorcerer. We know nothing about him beyond a single page in a comic released over 30 years ago, performing a ritual of some sort. The page reads as follows. Evil began in a time before recorded history, when magicians made themselves into kings and gods, using the powers of the dark side of the Force. The weak-minded have ever been ready to obey one who wields great power. Those who learned the powers of the dark side were quick to exploit this weakness, to make war. Again and again the dark side has surged forth like a storm, devouring whole worlds and entire star systems. Devouring whole worlds and entire star systems. Now, it does not specifically mention this sorcerer or this king being responsible for the storms in history that have consumed solar systems, plural, but I think it would be fairly obvious. The context of the source is specifically talking about man, his uses of the dark side, and their consequences, the depths its depravity will go to. But it does not matter. What matters is this is an objective fact of occurrence in universe. It all happened, and it was done by man. The dark side canon has been used to this effect several times by mere mortals. Naga Sado, Alima Keto, and now genuine, nameless nobodies. We aren't even pulling disparate sources across the EU, divided by writers, eras, or real-life decades. We are talking about the works of one singular author here, the very same man who wrote Dark Empire, which ties into Tales in many aspects. When discussing Palpatine's power, the endnotes said this: the dark side's most powerful expression. That same endnote segment explicitly references a very famous line from the very first Star Wars movie with an additional step.
Just we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. The novel, the Dark Empire endnotes, an original cut of A New Hope add in the word system.
This battle station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've created. The ability to destroy a planet, indeed a whole system, is insignificant compared with the cosmic force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader.
This has been in the possibilities for Star Wars since the very beginning. Since 1976, in fact. And while you have to dig around to find these examples, they and others exist. You were just wrong.
But Ruga, you might say, you don't understand. When Plagueis died, Palpatine said that he saw the stars themselves shake. That's bare minimum a solar system feat. It might even be up to galactic levels of power. No, never happened. You didn't actually read it, did you? Good for you, you're not gay. For one, it is very clearly shown in the novel that what Palpatine is experiencing is a vision. It's not real. But even if that were the case, if you actually look to the wording, it doesn't really say that the stars are shaking. The actual wording is, it seemed as if the stars themselves shook. You didn't actually read it, did you?
This man has not touched the book he is talking about, let alone read the first page or gone as far as 3 lines into the story. But I have, and now we are going to read it, juxtaposed with his exact wording. The Plagueis audiobook is a joy to experience, so let's have a listen.
A tremor took hold of the planet. Sprung from death, it unleashed itself in a powerful wave, at once burrowing deep into the world's core and radiating through its saccharine atmosphere to shake the stars themselves.
It would have taken 10 seconds of research to verify this is not true at best and a lie at worst. It could not have been more explicit. A tremor took hold of the planet, sprung from death. It unleashed itself in a powerful wave, at once burrowing deep into the world's core and radiating through its saccharine atmosphere to shake the stars themselves. At the quake's epicenter stood Sidious. That's what it says. The chapter is not a vision, and that word is only used at the very end. This, frankly, poor video does not deserve it being mentioned, but the narration actually makes note of the galaxy itself being reconfigured. You are, with the Force, dealing with a metaphysical being, but the Force is by its very nature the universe in large part. The laws of reality that Star Wars follows are inherently dictated and part of the Force, even as much as the gravity of stars and galaxies. As Yoda said, the Force is in all things. As the Tales of the Jedi Companion states, from the smallest molecule to the largest star, the Force is everywhere. This is somewhat relevant when you realize the big bamfs of the Star Wars universe tangibly affect the cosmic balance of power across a multiversal entity merely by virtue of existing. Whether Malik, Exar Kun, Palpatine, or Anakin digest the fact that individual men of sheer will can literally tip the scales of a cosmic war being waged in the hearts and minds of all living things, and push things in a direction according to their will. We will not explore these depths today. I bring this up to say that destroying stars or planets is quite low on the cosmic scale if you really stop and think about the consequences of men who can leash fundamental aspects of reality, whose rises and falls in power are far more relevant than any star or planet-based force nexus ever will be. For the sake of this video, it does not matter. You stated something that is debunkable in 2 seconds. You are wrong.
That's not the same thing. That is what we call hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies. There ain't no fucking ladies watching this video. No, I'm lying. We got like 4% ladies, right? Sorry, don't want to disregard you guys. We love you. Probably too much. You might want to stay away from the comment section. This is one of many examples that I will bring up over the course of this video of people not actually reading the thing where the thing happens and instead taking it from some dude online who said a thing, who's trying to manipulate the situation and force the numbers.
And isn't it
ironic?
Don't you think?
For those of you watching, do you understand why I felt the need to make this video? Who is he talking about here? Trust me, we will be back.
If you actually read the story, no way this could possibly be interpreted him as the stars actually being shooken by the power of the fucking Force. It's very clearly not the case.
All of you watching are in a place where this man is not, in that you have read the feat and he hasn't.
But Ruga, you might say, you don't understand. Poof, who's an act, that's his name is Poof, he's a Jedi Master. He stopped an artifact from blowing up the whole planet.
He did. And he did so on his deathbed.
Exploded, and he contained the explosion and saved that. Like, if it's a planetary explosion that he stopped. How is that not planetary? Because he didn't actually do that.
It never went off, but it was going to. Imminently. And why was it that it didn't? Because he contained it. Those are the exact words used. In the comic, he is described as binding or manipulating the power inside to render it inert.
The balls are inert.
You're not manipulating planet-destroying forces with your own without the power capacity in that field yourself. The fact file specifically says he absorbs the energy. Pray open and shut. Once again, you're wrong.
I had legitimate conversation with several people in the comments, as well as on a debate stream where someone said that he contained an explosion without realizing that the fucking artifact never actually went off. What Poof did, such a fucking weird name, what Poof did is he calmed an artifact that was about to explode and stopped it from going off. Again, that's not the same thing. But Ruga, you don't understand. Nihilus just goes around and destroys planets all willy-nilly. He does it all the time. I've seen him do it. He just uses the power of the Force to just rip the fucking planet apart. Does he though?
No, he doesn't.
Or does he have the Haxi power to absorb Force energy, including planets, and because those planets don't have Force energy, they fall apart, which is what is specifically stated to happen, not that he uses the Force to actually pull the planets apart.
This is semantic nonsense. The result is the same, and it's a function of his raw hunger. Look at the planet Qatar before he arrived. In every image depicted from orbit, you could see a living world. Oceans, mountains, buildings, things like that. Life. Look what happens the second he acts. It's rendered into a ball of dust. Even the buildings collapse on a planet-wide scale. The flesh of normal people is converted into energy and fed upon, leaving behind only skeletons buried under sand. It's still something that has a measurable level of decay. You can quantify it. You can calculate the energy needed to do that.
This is a Haxi ability of Force absorption or life absorption, if you want to kind of blend it in with other non-Force universes.
Is it building absorption too?
Nothing in here that ever states or even implies that he just has the ability to rip the planet apart with the powers of the Force.
In the game itself, Nihilus's power is directly compared to Base Delta Zero.
He convinced me the galaxy, all life, must die. He fed upon its ugliness, its screaming, and in its place, he left silence. And where there was chaos, he brought stillness and order. It was not a thing done with machines or weapons. The Force is far more terrible, and it touches more lives than any machine can hope to slay.
Note we saw an example of that in the previous game. Keep in mind, without even regarding the Jedi or Force-sensitive component of the meal, which is going to be significantly more valuable than the planet itself, hence why Nihilus went to Qatar in the first place.
And those who feel the Force strongly are beacons to his hunger. My people, my planet, would have been attacked in time. It was inevitable. Yet we could do nothing about it. The Jedi, the last council of the Jedi, came to our world to meet in secret. They hoped that perhaps among our people, they could achieve the clarity to see what was striking them from the darkness of the galaxy. They succeeded, but only in bringing him from the outer regions. And Qatar, with my kind, with the Jedi upon its surface, could no longer be ignored. And my people died, and the Jedi died, and there was no one left. only me.
This devastation caused by his power is the work done. The energy Nihilus invested into rendering Qatar a ball of lifeless dust has to be less than the energy he gets out of eating it in the first place, or else he would starve to death. This is what he needs to do just to power up.
There's nothing in here that ever states or even implies that he just has the ability to rip the planet apart with the powers of the Force.
In the video game Knights of the Old Republic 2, Visas Mar speaks of the dust ball of Qatar you have witnessed. She explicitly notes, the planet has not been destroyed, it still exists.
The planet was not destroyed. It remains. It orbits, dead in space. But nothing lives on its surface. It echoes, but there's no one left to hear it. I've heard tales of Malachor. It is said that many of my people felt the end of the Mandalorian Wars from across the galaxy. But do not mistake me. I did not mean to draw comparisons between Qatar and Malachor. My homeworld still exists. It is intact.
Here she is, later on in the same game, knowing that Nihilus will destroy Telos, a planet which has already been rendered mostly uninhabitable by Saul Kara's fleet. And also, he will destroy the multi-continent-sized space station that covers up a significant portion of the planet.
Have you come to kill me? The final insult. Stripping Onderon, my soldiers, my home from me, only to have me die here. The hunger that fills this vessel. It is power, but it consumes without end. It is that power we felt on Onderon, that Vaklu felt. It was an echo, too strong to ignore. When it seemed that we would need more to take Onderon, make it strong again, he came with his power, his soldiers. It seemed as if there was nothing we could not do. Nothing the Queen could do to stop us. I have served the wrong master. He cares nothing for Onderon, its soldiers, its people. Everything exists to feed his will. I came here, to this dead ship, and now he will not permit me to leave. This ship, it is a graveyard of a terrible battle. Everything on it slowly dies, as long as he hungers.
It is the way of all life that serves him. In his presence, all life dies.
This ship is from Malachor. This Sith Lord of yours bolsters his fleet with ships from that world? He's nothing more than a scavenger.
I think he is of that place. If so, then his power may be great indeed. Greater than I had thought.
The master suffers. If he cannot feed, then the hunger begins to consume him. The planet, Telos, he may feed on something upon its surface to sustain him a while longer. I told him, you know, what the old woman told me. I told him of the Academy here, of the Jedi here. I could not have kept it from him, even if I had wanted to.
He means that Jedi witch you travel with, Kreia.
Yes. The old woman on Onderon. She spoke of the Jedi Academy here on Telos, and my master was forced to come here. He will destroy all of Telos. He will turn it to fire again and crush the planet beneath him. He will devour them all, murder them all.
If there are no Jedi here, then my lord cannot feed his hunger. He will destroy the planet, the station. He will cleanse it of life. Even if the people below are not Force-sensitive, the small amount he can feed on from the mass destruction of the station and the life on the planet will sustain him a while longer. And if there are no Jedi below, he will have no other choice. If he feeds upon Citadel Station, we will be unable to escape in time. We will be consumed as well. Without something to sustain him, I do not know what will happen.
He will create nothing. He will end this place. Your old woman has killed this planet, and with it, countless other worlds that depend on its survival. You could not stop him even if you wanted to. And you cannot escape either. If the Force runs through you, he will feed on it when Citadel Station dies. Your time, your life, will end here.
I do not believe he knows his ship has been boarded. And if he did, he would not care. The extent of his power cannot be put into words, and his perceptions have grown as well. To him,
you are dust motes in a storm, a grain upon the beach, and as insignificant as a body that orbits the graveyard of Malachor. Fight him if you will, but if he turns his power upon you, you will be destroyed. This ship, is it his weakness? It should not exist, yet it cruises the darkness between the stars. He tore it from the mass shadows of Malachor, along with his fleet. That is a measure of his power.
The ship is barely holding itself together. The structural damage should have destroyed it long ago.
He holds it together. And he keeps us all alive. Just enough. Like rotworms within a dying beast.
More Jedi tricks.
No. Not Jedi. Not Jedi at all.
If he's so powerful, why hasn't he stopped us then? We've attacked his ship, killed his soldiers, and he's done nothing.
It is because he sees planets, stars, not people. To him, the planet below, the station with its teeming life, only that is massive enough to demand his attention. There is nothing to be done except wait. If you go to him, he will destroy you, and your last moments shall be of shadow and pain. There is nothing to be done. By coming here, you are already dead.
Considering the forces in all things, up to the largest sun, and he sees
planets, stars, not people.
It's not inconceivable that he can eat suns, or one day will have that power.
He didn't do that. The fact of the matter is that one of the absolute most powerful things that we've ever seen any character in this entire universe do, not including like the weird god force characters in Legends, because I'm aware that there are literal gods in Star Wars, but like actual Sith is when Palpatine made a force storm around the entire world. There really isn't that much that compares to that. There's a couple of things that are close, and maybe a few things that are arguable, but it doesn't matter. That's not a planetary level thing.
The very source which speaks of star-destroying powers or solar system-destroying powers explicitly says the Force Storm is the most powerful dark-side ability in existence. You are wrong. And even if we disregard that, the storm is quite literally able to shear off the surface of planets at the bare minimum. You yourself will note this later on. It can destroy the most powerful ship in all of Star Wars, short of the Death Star.
It doesn't in any way prove that Palpatine with the Force can like start moving continents and shit. I've talked about this example in the past, but it's like, you know, Storm from the X-Men. She can make a planet-wide storm if she wants to, but you can go kill her with a fucking pocket knife. Pull out a pocket knife, stab her, she'll bleed out and die. She doesn't have the physical force ability to just fucking blow up planets. It doesn't exist.
2 minutes of Googling confirmed my instant gut feeling that Storm has probably interacted with the Hulk in a negative context in some form or other in the past, and lo and behold she had. I'm willing to wager the Hulk throws objects harder than you or I can stab with a knife. Here she is physically contesting with Thor for a second before he knocks her out. Creatively, I suppose. I don't know what the context is for these fights, but I can guarantee there will be countless examples of Storm getting back up after being hit by blows ever so slightly more powerful than a pocket knife. Remember what I said about lower ed feats? It's everywhere.
That's the same way in Star Wars. These characters do not have this amount of ability, but people will constantly argue with me that yes, they do. But they've never been able to bring up a legitimate point of where it actually happens. In one of my debate streams, I actually had like a solid 45 minutes of arguing with 3 or 4 different dudes who all said that yes, Palpatine can do all this stuff, he just doesn't, because that would go against his over-the-top massive master plan. But no matter how long the debate went on, they wouldn't give me an example of him being able to do it. You have to prove this shit. You can't just fucking say it. I didn't even make him show it to me. All I had to say was just tell me what it is. You don't have to tell me where it is. Just tell me something he does. Nobody can do it because it never fucking happens. Star Wars misconception number 2. All Force users, both Jedi and Sith, are bare minimum light speed, as they are capable of deflecting and defending and dodging against light speed attacks, specifically all of the different laser weapons that exist within Star Wars. bullshit.
You're spouting the equivalent of Star Wars flat earthism here, and I must admit it does bring me a small amount of pleasure to demonstrate why. This is the kind of ignorance you can only adopt if you have been spoon-fed all your information by Wikipedia articles that in the end you didn't even bother to read. And even though Wook gets its info wrong, it still mentions light-based weaponry. Blasters fire coherent light, as stated by KOTOR 1, 2, their Prima guides respectively, West End Games, and probably a few sources like novels and sourcebooks. Here's something that will really leave egg on your face. Lightspeed handheld weaponry has been a thing since before A New Hope, the movie, was released. The stun blast that knocked out Princess Leia is explicitly said to move at light speed, and it's not the last time blasters will be labelled as such. Please continue spouting ignorance.
Did you know that there is not a single light-based laser weapon that exists throughout all of Star Wars lore anywhere? Not in novels, not in games, nowhere. It doesn't exist. They don't use the technology at all.
Any weapon, from the concealable holdout pistols, light carbines and heavy rifles, to field artillery and shipboard cannon batteries that uses intense light technology is labelled a blaster. I'm not asking much, just a bare minimum level of research.
But Ruga, you might be saying, that's bullshit because we see all manner of different weapons that are just straight up called laser weapons in the series. Oftentimes characters will shoot things and it's called in the novels that they're shooting lasers. They're lasers. Lasers means light. What are you talking about? Yes, that's true. There's a lot of statements all over the place that call things lasers, like they're firing lasers. Like for instance, the turbo laser. But when the turbo laser is introduced, the projectiles is specifically described as hardened plasma.
Laser cannons and turbo lasers fire invisible energy beams that travel at light speed. Isn't that unfortunate? I'm going to grant this guy the benefit of doubt that he does not deserve and say sure, there may be some source somewhere that says those words, but if he opened the cross sections, which is probably where you'd want to go if you want to talk about technical commentary, you'd know it's not described as plasma, and it's described, actually, as an invisible energy source. Not only that, but the part you don't see, the actual bolt, moves at light speed, while a secondary bolt of light moves slightly slower.
And yes, that is the case for literally every other weapon that is introduced that is called a laser. In the Star Wars universe, the word laser is interchangeable with any type of beam of energy that's fired out of any weapon. Blaster bolts have been stated to be plasma on multiple occasions. It is called plasma or particle beams.
It's probably a good time to mention that there are variances in the description of blasters, as the KOTOR images show. This has been the case for a while. Some say lasers or coherent light, some say particle beams or plasma. I cannot at this moment think of a single source that describes them as plasma in the EU, but it doesn't matter. They are absolutely in the minority. Here's a source that describes Star Wars lasers as moving at light speed. Here's another. Is that enough? No? What about a third one? It's almost as if this guy does not know what he is talking about. In the original Knights of the Old Republic era, the soldiers fighting on Onderon used radiation-based weaponry. Radiation moves at the speed of light.
However, those same plasma bolts have also been called lasers, just as a generic term for a glowing-ish energy-based beam. This is across all of Star Wars. Even the Great Death Star, its massive planetary destroying blast, which in Star Wars has been called a laser in the past, is also specifically described as plasma that is enhanced by kyber crystals and unstable, so that when it hits a target, it explodes in this massive reaction that could blow up planets.
I am convinced this guy got his information from a homeless man off the street. I can only assume he read this on the canon wiki and didn't press the big golden button that says Legends, because the idea of kyber crystals powering the Death Star did not come about until TCW's, at the time, cancelled episodes, which by the way, introduced planet-destroying kyber crystals, and probably became the norm in the Disney era.
The crystal isn't just refracting energy, it's intensifying the charge.
What happens if it gets hit by something bigger than a blaster?
I'm afraid we're about to find out.
Sir, a massive discharge of energy has caused an explosion on C-Deck.
The Jedi, they have the crystal.
Come back here. Wait. Don't leave me. Come back.
As I said, if we can't have the crystal, no one can.
Master, you never failed to impress.
It is unfortunate that you were unable to capture the crystal. We may never know what plans Grievous had for it.
Not Grievous. The work of the Sith Lord. This is. Better in the end that destroyed this crystal was.
I've never seen nor heard of a kyber crystal like this one. Was the Council aware of their existence?
Master Yoda?
Out of the stories of old, this crystal comes. Long ago, in forgotten times, when the Sith and Jedi fought for control of the galaxy. Weapons there were, of unimaginable power. Always at their heart, a kyber crystal was. Just like the one you described.
You're speaking of children's stories, fairy tales.
In legends, we often find great truths, Skywalker. A warning this is. Powerful the Sith Lord has become, with great designs for our destruction. If find one of these crystals, he can. Another he will seek.
Because debates were had before I was even born about the nature of the Death Star laser, based on conversations about neutrinos and all other wonky descriptions that caused internet arguments that lasted for decades. If the Death Star beam was ever labelled as being plasma, and I'm sorry to say I don't believe you saying it was, I can't recall it.
But it is talked about as being plasma. Every single weapon in the entire universe fires some form of particle beam or plasma.
Note that sly stealth insert there of particle beams alongside plasma.
Never at any point are any of these things actually described as light.
West End Games introduced a multitude of weapons, one of which utilizes microwaves in its weaponry. Microwaves are, you won't believe it, as fast as the speed of light. The Essential Guide to Warfare explicitly states, early space technology utilized microwaves as the primary form of firepower. Do you think they decided to downgrade to weapons that move slower than baseballs, according to Mythbusters? Here is a source that explicitly says blasters use light technology. Here is a source that says the Millennium Falcon fires at the speed of light. And just for the fun of it, here's another source that talks about light speed weapons. I really would like to see you post any evidence or just any source that you or someone you know did not fabricate.
Despite the fact that they are oftentimes called lasers by characters in the series, because the people who write these books don't give a fuck about what a laser is scientifically.
The Incredible Cross-Sections was deliberately written by the time of the prequel eras as being an in-universe technical journal.
None of these projectiles fly anywhere close to light. In fact, odds are they don't even fly as fast as bullets.
Here is Revenge of the Sith's novelization describing Magna Guards as having lightspeed reactions, droid starfighters as having lightspeed reactions, and here's a statement on ships firing at near light speed.
Because you have no idea the science behind having to make a fucking plasma beam fly at the same speed that a bullet flies.
If that was the case, why doesn't everyone just use bullets then? If bullets are so fast and Jedi are so slow. Oh wait, we have examples of pre-Jedi traditions swatting actual bullets out of the air. We know Star Wars bullets are hypersonic. We also know the second form of lightsaber combat was deliberately made to counter light speed attacks. Here's an example of a bullet and a laser firing at the same time. Guess which one is faster?
And there's so many things in Star Wars that pointed at not being that. Like, for instance, even the sound isn't right when the plasma comes out of the guns. If it was breaking the sound barrier, it would sound very different than how it actually sounds in the movies and shows.
Well, you've cracked the code. This genius should also tell George Lucas that flying faster than light is not possible.
Which, personally, I do agree is probably going a little bit too far. The creators just didn't give a shit about. They just wanted it to sound cool. They didn't care about making it sound as if it was literally traveling faster than sound. Fair enough, I get that. But there's no evidence it's going light speed. And people keep claiming it's going light speed simply because the term laser is being used. Now, there is some other stuff that people like to point at as proof that these characters are light speed. Like there's this one ridiculous calculation with Darth Malik in Knights of the Old Republic. But I mean, Jesus, just check that shit out, because man, are they fucking make massive stretch. Insane levels of universal stretchage on that shit. That's like Mr. Fantastic Luffy levels of stretching that they are doing.
Note he can't actually say why it's wrong.
They like take the pixels of the game and compare it to the stars moving in the outside the ship, and it's what? Also heard the argument they're light speed because Palpatine sends his soul from his body to a different body that's like across the galaxy, so his soul was traveling at massively faster than light. Cool. I mean, if he can do that with his physicals, then you have an argument.
If he can do that with one force power, why not another? There's a bevy list of cross-galactic force powers being used, and not by ghosts. You would know this if you knew anything.
There's also a statement in the novels where it describes a character's reaction speed as a nanosecond, which is yet another example of characters taking certain wording and twisting it to mean what they want it to mean. Nowhere in that novel does it ever say that the character realized a projectile was coming, pulled out his lightsaber, turned it on, deflected the bolt, all within that single nanosecond.
For the people watching this video, do you know people pay this guy money to listen to him speak? I'll play it again for you.
Novel does it ever say that the character realized a projectile was coming, pulled out his lightsaber, turned it on, deflected the bolt, all within that single nanosecond.
Is he right?
Come now, Master Skywalker.
Talon's voice reached Luke more inside his mind than in his ears. A simple enough force trick, but nonetheless one that sent a chill down Luke's back.
There will be time enough for that after we talk.
Luke replied in a normal speaking voice. You expect me to come down?
Well, you haven't blasted me yet,
Talon countered. Luke pressed the trigger and held it down, then felt his jaw drop as bolts began to ricochet off the High Lord's palms. It wasn't the deflection of blaster fire with a bare hand that shocked him. He had fought plenty of Sith capable of that trick. What amazed Luke was the speed with which Talon had moved. In the nanosecond it had taken the first bolt to cross the distance between them, the High Lord's hand had risen to deflect it, traveling so fast that the appendage had literally seemed to disappear from one place and reappear in another.
This guy says things repeatedly, only for it to turn out that the exact opposite is true. It did happen in the nanosecond. Those exact words, in the nanosecond it had taken the first bolt to cross the distance between them, are explicitly used. Who is feeding this guy his lines? Or is he just a liar?
What the statement was clearly saying, which is kind of common sense if you know anything about Star Wars, is that there was essentially no reaction time at all for him to realize it was coming, because his movements are controlled by the Force.
In the nanosecond it had taken, he is just yapping.
The moment the blaster bolt was fired, the Jedi started moving to deflect it. It doesn't mean the entire action was within a nanosecond.
In the nanosecond it had taken. And actually in a nanosecond, light is only able to move about 30 centimeters. That suggests, in fact, this blaster in this example was moving a few times faster than light at the very least.
Star Wars fans should know that this makes sense, that the character wouldn't have a reaction time, or the reaction time would be nanosecond based, because they are guided by the Force.
I don't know what he's even trying to say here. Just open a book.
But taking that one little statement and try and stretch it and mean that they can do all of these crazy actions within that same nanosecond, come on, y'all. Again, massive stretch. Massive stretch. Star Wars misconception number 3. Within the Star Wars universe's lightsabers are these crazy, over-the-top, amazing, durability-negating, ultimate power, magic, space bullshit magic. They can cut through anything and is amazing in every way. Bullshit.
Lightsaber, given enough time, can cut through just about anything.
Let's play a little game, multiple choice. What do you think that Star Wars lightsabers are made out of?
At the time I listened to this video, I had to pause it and predict what he would say next, because I already knew exactly where he was going.
A, bullshit space magic, B, light, or C, plasma. I'll give you a second to answer. Go ahead. Okay, time's up. It's fucking plasma.
It's fucking not plasma.
Pure energy.
it's not plasma. Not in the EU. That is Disney revisionism. It really does not matter in the grand scheme of things. But this is something of a bugbear with me because of the sheer mountain of people who assert to this day, even in the EU, that it is plasma, when it's not. At least not in most EU sources. It is stated in countless games and other sources to be pure energy. Does that really matter in any way? I don't think so. But lightsabers are pretty good at the whole cutting thing, and the things they don't work on tend to have special properties and or are used to safeguard things like warships, where said ships are throwing world-killing energies at each other, and it's just another nail in the coffin for this guy's credibility. Maybe his other videos are fantastic, but for this video, he knows nothing.
Yet another example of a weapon or something being called light within the Star Wars universe that is not at all light is plasma. Again. This not only really helps my previous point about things being called lasers not necessarily being lasers, but also plasma's good, you know? Plasma's, it's pretty good, it's tight, you know, it's baller, is that what the kids say, you know? It's groovy, but it's not fucking invincible, and we see this in the Star Wars universe. There are several metals that it is shown either not being able to cut through or struggling heavily to cut through.
There is an untapped aspect of Jedi using the Force to amplify their striking power, to go beyond what the lightsaber can do in normal people's hands. For example, Exar Kun, when using the dark side of the Force, vaporized a larger than Exar Kun sized hole, greater in width than the blade itself, and did so into Mandalorian iron on Duxon. And when in the same position, the exile from KOTOR 2 could not perform that task, relying instead on hard explosives. Here's Kit Fisto also slashing beyond the apparent length of the lightsaber's blade.
And I'm talking about before the whole Disney bullshit even exists. All the way back in episode 1, we see Qui-Gon seriously struggle to cut through a door with his lightsaber. It takes like 20 minutes to get all the way through it.
Qui-Gon plunges the blade in up to its hilt instantly. The heat extends far beyond the length, breadth, or height of the blade. All this other damage is extra. The lightsaber is not moving. Damage is spreading outwards. Imagine what it should do to a person's insides.
It has never been shown to be this thing that can just cut through anything, but everyone I talk to about lightsabers talk about it as if it can. There have been people with more patience than me that actually went and like calculated how hot a lightsaber would have to be in order to do some of the things that it does in the movies and the extended universe, and they came to the conclusion that it should be about 25,000 Kelvin. That's super impressive. 25,000 Kelvin is hot enough to melt basically any material that exists here on Earth or in our known universe. But it's not that impressive. I mean, just as a comparison, a lightning bolt can be around 30,000 Kelvin, and human beings have survived being hit by lightning bolts.
That's because a lightning bolt only hits you for a few hundred microseconds. The time frame to impart energy is infinitesimal. Remember how slow light is in this kind of time frame. Your average person is not taking an entire lightning bolt's energy. A lightning bolt can have dozens or hundreds of times the power that a tank round has kinetic energy. Safe to say, no human has ever withheld that.
All right, we just got a delicious torso shot from that Pac 40, and now it looks like we got a little bit of a different gun going on here.
Yes, so we're going to be using an M41 Bulldog tank. This would have saw service in Vietnam. Yep. So that's the tank, but what is the projectile? Because that's what we're more focused on here.
So the projectile is a 17-pound hunk of steel that's going to be flying out of that barrel, roughly 3,000, 3,200 feet per second.
So that's like 50 cal speed, but way fatter.
Yeah.
Do you know the kinetic energy?
I don't. I know it'll wreck whatever it hits, though.
All right, Nick's about to give this a high-velocity facelift in 3, 2, 1.
Here's a YouTuber talking about how you could survive on the sun if you teleported for very small periods of time, based on the same rationalization.
It's not an instant kill. It takes time to burn through things and to melt things, just like lightsabers are shown to take time to melt things in the Star Wars universe. I mean, shit, our technology in the real world has shown that we are capable of making hotter plasmas than exist within the lightsabers. The hottest plasma we've ever been able to make is over 5 trillion Kelvin.
Heat does not matter. It's the energy that matters.
We can make all sorts of crazy fucking hot shit. Lightsabers are neither hotter than the hottest naturally occurring plasmas, nor is it the hottest man-made plasma. So what the fuck is this argument all about? Why do you guys think this shit is like fucking insanely awesome? This is plasma. Again, if it's in Star Wars and it's glowing and it hurts you, it's probably fucking plasma. Star Wars misconception number 4. Overusing the Force is bullshit. That's some Disney shit that they added because they bastards and they wanted to fuck up my whole series. So they're like, oh, Luke died because he overused the Force. You can't overuse the Force. What the fuck are you talking about? Yes, you can. Again, I don't understand how these people can claim to be fans, like hardcore fans of this stuff, and they clearly don't read the shit. It's just as bad as Christians who claim to be Christians but never read the Bible. It's the same shit. Stop pretending you're a fake fan.
If the only thing you, the viewer, know about Star Wars is that Anakin and Luke are like cousins or something, I promise you, you know more than this guy does.
There are several instances all over the extended universe. 3 Gläser. Of characters overusing the Force. It has literally been described in these stories as every Force user having a Force reservoir. And every Force user's Force reservoir is different. Some people have bigger ones, some people have smaller ones. But if you start using too much of it and you run out of that Force reservoir, you then have to stop using the Force because you could pass out or at worst die.
He is going to mention a grand total of none of them. Do you know why? Because they don't exist. I don't really care about this one either way, but I can't think of anyone who meets this description. Poof died because of his wounds, not the infant of Shah. I can't think of anyone else. Name a single example.
Now, Luke Skywalker is the first character that I'm aware of that has actually died from it. Most characters just pass out or just aren't capable of doing it anymore. So that's kind of a new phenomenon. But the idea that a character can use the Force to such an extent and keep themselves awake, just like force themselves to not pass out using their entire reservoir and then killing themselves, totally fucking possible. In fact, Nihilus specifically was killing people by stealing all of the Force in their bodies. So we know that that's something that absolutely can happen. Why is it so weird? There are even Sith rituals that are specifically stated to be deadly to people, and you could die doing them because it overuses the Force. This is all shit that's existed in Star Wars long before Disney ever even purchased them. I'm not a fan of Disney Star Wars or anything. I think it's just as shitty as everybody else. But not every single thing they've ever done is a fucking blasphemy towards Star Wars. That's a very valid thing to have happen to Luke Skywalker, that he could die overusing it. Every other thing they did with his character, not so much. But that thing, yeah, that's totally I could buy into that. This idea that they can utilize their power on a damn near limitless range is just complete fabrication by the fan base. There's a lot of shit in this game that is just a complete and utter fabrication by the fan base. And also, much like Star Wars and really any fandom that is heavily involved with the power system of its own series, they like to misread things, I'm assuming on purpose, and just passing it off as what they would like the feat to be as opposed to what it actually is. Like Atlas destroying a meteor. There was a meteor that was going towards a planet. Well, that's enough talking about what these characters can't do. Let's talk about what they can do, and we're going to start with Star Wars. Now, a lot of people I think are going to be annoyed at the stuff that I've said about Star Wars, about them not being planetary and not doing all this other crazy stuff, but honestly, I think if you think that the strongest part about Star Wars and the Sith as a whole is just that they can destroy a lot of shit and move really fast, I think you're kind of underselling Star Wars a little bit. There's a lot of super impressive shit the Force can do that people don't really talk about. They only really talk about the normal stuff for like the most extreme shit, right? They talk about Force Storm, or they talk about, you know, Force Lightning, or being able to see into the future or whatever. But there's so much more than that. I mean, there's a long list of like 40 or 50 different Sith powers that are super fucking impressive that we just don't really talk about. But you know what? I'm going to talk about them right now. Everybody knows what Force Choke is. It's the ability to choke a person with telekinesis far away.
Wow! Wow, that's
That's incredible! And then you have all the crazy shit that's not in any way related to the Sith, but it's still force powers they can use, like battle meditation, which is an ability that in a war-like engagement, when there's thousands and thousands of people on two sides all fighting, battle meditation allows you to up the morale of one side while lowering the morale of the other side. It's like a willpower / mind control type-ish ability that basically guarantees that one side will win. You can literally use battle meditation when one side has 300 dudes and the other side has 10,000 dudes, and the 300 dudes could still fucking win because you sucked the fucking morale out of the 10,000 dudes. That's a bit of an exaggeration. I don't know if that's actually, legitimately possible, but it's like that's the idea of the power.
Battle meditation can single-handedly alter the course of entire wars on a galactic scale. That's why Bastila was so important.
Bastila's the key to the whole Republic war effort. The Sith must have found out that she was on the Endar Spire and set an ambush for us in this system. Bastila is no ordinary Jedi. She has a rare gift the Jedi call battle meditation. Bastila's power can influence entire armies. Through the Force, Bastila can inspire her allies with confidence and make her enemies lose their will to fight. Often that's all it takes to tip the balance in a battle.
The Sith have the ability to control the metachlorians inside of a person's body, basically giving them at least somewhat kinda genetics manipulation. Like they can...
Midichlorian manipulation was only really consciously done by Plagueis and Palpatine, with Plagueis theorizing others who did so didn't know what they were doing, basically. What you're looking for is Sith alchemy. Basic stuff that you don't know.
Stop themselves from aging and keep themselves alive for super long periods of time, even stop themselves from dying in some occasions. They have the ability to fight off certain things like toxins and infections. As I've already said, they have an ability to a limited extent to see into the future. While most Sith, normal Sith, can only see like a split second in the future, some of them have trained it to such a degree that they can see visions from years into the future. They're not normally shown controlling these visions and like seeing what they can see. Like they're not like, okay, I'm gonna have a vision right now.
But now the fate of this alliance rests only with you.
We're going after Vader. And the rebels.
What are you doing?
Meditating. A Jedi can sometimes sense visions of the future.
Have you done this before?
Never been a Jedi before. No. Coda!
What? What did you see?
A massive space station.
It just kind of comes with them. It's not very battle, helpful that much. But the part that is battle helpful is the whole looking of split second in the future during combat. That's very useful. Many Sith have the ability to force heal, completely sealing up wounds that had just opened a little while previously. There is a limit to how much this force heal could, like they couldn't fix fucking Anakin, for instance, when he burnt to a goddamn crisp.
It healed Exar Kun when every single bone in his body was crushed.
But on less severe wounds, it's actually very useful. They have the ability to completely control the minds of their opponents. However, it only works if they're weak-minded, but even if they're not weak-minded, they can somewhat influence their decisions to some degree.
Weak-minded is a nebulous, meaningless term you cannot quantify. Here is a statement on the mental sharpness and inability for stormtroopers to be corrupted by things like bribery or threats. It didn't stop Obi-Wan. Here is Palpatine using mind tricks on General Grievous himself. Here is Revan using it on a Hutt, of all things. There are nobody fallen Jedi who can convince millions of rebel soldiers to abandon their deeply held belief systems and follow in his wake. Planetary mind control has happened several times, and it is nothing compared to what the greatest can achieve.
There's an ability called Force Stealth, which allows us to completely hide themselves from anything that's trying to locate them. This doesn't only include visuals, but also scanners and different things like this. Basically, they become completely invisible and no one can see them. And there are certain degrees to it. Like, some people can use it just to hide the fact that they have Force abilities. This is why no one knew that Palpatine was a Sith Lord. They didn't feel any Force or sense any Force from him because he was using Force Stealth. But
he was using alchemy. There's an entire comic dedicated to it.
But if you are really, really fucking good at it, you can just straight up become invisible to basically any form of location thing at all, including your, eyes. It's very cool. It's very useful in battle. There's Force Illusion, which allows you to actually alter the battlefield or alter anything you want and make your opponent see shit that's not there. Again, very useful in a combat situation. Point is, they got a lot of shit, guys. There's a lot of shit. So stop underselling them by being like they just know telekinesis and lightning powers. There's more to it than that. I will say though, a lot of people are going to bring up Force Storm as being like the thing, because that's generally known as being like the most powerful thing the Sith can do, as it opens up this massive wormhole and you start sucking shit in. But I will say the likelihood of a Sith actually using that in a combat situation is very unlikely, because they can't control it. There's never in any point anywhere in the books has there ever been a Sith that can properly control that power.
While sources both say that Palpatine has and hasn't mastered the use of Force Storms, he has displayed enough mastery in it that he was able to ravage the surface of Coruscant, tearing apart things like AT-AT wreckage, while having the finite control to not harm either Luke or R2-D2, and then clearly was able to parse from all that debris he has eaten up to deliver just Luke and just R2 into a dungeon ship. So clearly there's some nuance here.
It's just kind of chaotic in nature, so if someone were to use it, it would kind of just be like a Hail Mary, let's just kill everybody here at right now, let's just end all of our lives because we're gonna lose anyway sort of situation. But it wouldn't be a viable option to kill the Warframe and not kill the Sith. It just doesn't really work that way. Now, while rare, I have seen arguments of people saying that Palpatine covered a large section of the galaxy with a Force Storm, essentially spanning thousands of light years from the planet of Biss all the way to the planet of Coruscant. But saying this shows a massive lack of understanding of exactly what a Force Storm is. When you create a Force Storm, it has the potential of opening up wormholes to different locations. It's not that he created a Force Storm that stretched across an entire galaxy. It's that the Force Storm he created opened up a wormhole, one side of that wormhole being on Biss and the other side being on Coruscant. He essentially opened up a portal. It's also important to note that Palpatine was only capable of doing this because Biss is considered the nexus of all dark side power, and he was feeding off of that nexus in order to do this.
No, he didn't. He opened it up to an Imperial dungeon ship, possibly while in transit to hyperspace, and was able to discriminate between Luke and R2 and all the other things he had eaten. So potentially cross-dimensional. He also used it upon his death at Endor to send himself instantly to a servant's body light years away. So not only is it far-reaching, it's also fast. Read the damn description on Force Storms as provided by Palpatine himself, and how the storm's source comes from the Self, for that matter.
Palpatine, under normal circumstances, cannot create a Force Storm at all. This was a very big plot point in that storyline.
Read anything. Besides, the Rebel Alliance witnessed the storm being used in several systems prior, so it doesn't need Biss or a nexus to be the receiving end. Once again, he is just saying words.
The energy storm that took Commander Skywalker. This is not an isolated event. Similar storms have been detected in several systems.
So just think about that for a second. Palpatine, one of the all-time strongest Sith in all of Star Wars lore, is not capable of making a Force Storm. This means that the number of Sith that actually will be capable of making a Force Storm is probably going to number in the single digits. But truth be told, this is very unlikely to even happen during a combat scenario because, one, it takes a ridiculous level of force to actually do it.
Really, man? The Dark Empire sourcebook states even groups of Jedi working in tandem can do it. I think you should read more and talk less, because you know very little on what you're talking about.
And two, Force Storms are known to be extremely dangerous to create, even to the person creating them. Like, for instance, Palpatine got sucked into his own fucking Force Storm, and it nearly killed him.
It did kill him. You may want to mention that Luke and Leia literally using the full power of the Force to cut him off, and you won't believe this, severing his control, may have had a slight impact on him dying. You would know this if you'd read Dark Empire. It's not a long comic.
It's not like a character can use a Force Storm and just aim it at the Warframe.
Force Storms. Difficulty. Modified by size of storm desired. And then it notes how the smaller it is, the easier it is to control. Those of you who have read Dark Empire know that the receiving end of Coruscant's storm was small enough that it could deliver Luke inside an Imperial dungeon ship.
They would essentially be committing suicide and killing basically all the Sith as well. So basically you could just take this power and assume it won't be used at all. There's actually quite a few powers that the Sith have that are kind of held back by the double-edged nature of the powers. Shit that they do that, like, yeah, it hurts the enemy, but it kind of fucking sucks for me too. That does exist. That's pretty common.
It's so common he will not mention a single one.
And while I did go on a bit of a tirade how the Sith aren't powerful enough to destroy planets and move stars and black holes and shit, it's not like they're not powerful. I mean, if we're talking about everything, this would include legends and video games and all that kind of shit. Starkiller did pull down a Star Destroyer out of the fucking sky. That's pretty cool. There are impressive shits, like I said already. Palpatine did wrap an entire planet in a Force storm. Again, nearly killed him, and it wasn't the smart idea to do, but he did do it. Like, there is stuff that they have that's super, super overpowered. I would even argue that a lot of this shit is more powerful than anything that we've seen the Warframes do, just outright in terms of just how much physical power force there is. So, will that be enough to face off against the Warframe? I don't know. I haven't covered the Warframe yet. Why don't we fucking find out and stop being so impatient? But to give you probably the best example that we have, there is one scene where Excalibur, who is not in even the top 3 or 4 strongest characters in the series, just to be clear, was stepped on by a massive mech that was, I don't know, fucking 8 stories tall. I don't know. I'm not good with height stuff just by sight, but it's really fucking big. It's a lot of tons, very likely several hundred tons, possibly maybe like 1,000 tons. I don't know. It's big. Look how big it is. It's super big. He steps on top of him, and while Excalibur is not capable of lifting the foot of this thing that steps on him, he does hold it there, and he doesn't allow it to push him down or crush him. So it's definitely still a strength. Like, he doesn't even like drop to his knees, but he very clearly can't lift it above his head. So this is a very clear limitation of what his strength is. Let's get on to the actual verdict of which side would come out on top in an all-out fucking physical engagement. Just to give a little bit of clarification on what exactly we're doing here, we will not be doing space battles here. There's no space battles, no giant space war. We're just gonna have an army of Sith on the ground with their lightsabers against an army of Warframe on the ground. They're gonna clash, and we're gonna fucking see who wins. That's all it is. If you are curious who would win if they did have a space battle, the Sith. Easily. They actually have a fleet. Warframe don't have a fleet. I mean, if you really want to be technical with it, all that has to happen is Palpatine has to fly one Star Destroyer into the Warframe universe, which is just the Sol system, our solar system, and then just blow up the sun, and then boom, you're done. All life in the Sol system would die, and it would just, it's over. Now we are finally on to the showdown. Who wins between these two powerful factions of great warrior monks slash kind of sort of magic creatures? And the answer is Warframe. Of course it's Warframe. Are you kidding me? Don't get me wrong. The Sith do have some benefits here, things that make them better than the Warframe. One good strength they have is the fact that all Sith, for the most part, share all of the same powers. There are different levels of strength, and some of them have unique abilities, but for the most part, all the Sith have all the same abilities, and they have a large variety of abilities. This is not the case for Warframe. This means that the Sith losing an individual in their army isn't nearly as big of a deal as the Warframe losing one of theirs. If the Warframe lose someone on their side, like Proteus has the ability to control time and Protea dies, well, guess what? The entire Warframe side now loses the ability to control time. That's gone now. You can't do that. This is not the case for the Sith. This might not sound like it's that much of an advantage, but it is actually a pretty big advantage. You also, the fact that I'm pretty sure the Sith well outnumber the Warframe. We don't know how many Warframe there are, but at maximum, there's probably only like a couple thousand or so, if that. There aren't that many, whereas Sith, especially if you're talking about Sith across all of time, are a lot. They had whole Sith academies that were training hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Sith. Most of these bitches were like fucking weak, and they'll be wiped out pretty easily.
Here's a newly minted Jedi Knight performing an act on a similar scale to what Starkiller did in The Force Unleashed.
You look into Legends, a lot of the Sith have Force abilities that are considerably higher tier of power than anything that we've seen from the Warframe. Starkiller grabbing a Star Destroyer and ripping it out of the fucking sky is really more impressive than anything we've ever seen a Warframe do. But outside of those three things, Warframe are better in basically every single category you could possibly think of. And they have a counter for literally every single thing a Sith can do. A lot of people, when they talk about Sith, they like to talk about the absolute most powerful shit that Sith can do. Like, for instance, the Force Storm that Palpatine makes, or the fact that Darth Nihilus and Darth Vitiate destroyed an entire planet by sucking all of the life energy or Force energy out of said planet. But what they always leave out of that is the fact that both Nihilus, Vitiate, and Palpatine all had to do these massive rituals in order to do these things. It's not something they can do by themselves.
Palpatine got angry and a storm showed up. Nihilus said a word and the planet died. You would know this if you'd played KOTOR 2. Vitiate ascended to pseudo-godhood and is stated in the book to be able to now do it without the 8,000 Sith, probably because he assimilated their souls and their power into his own body.
By themselves. For instance, the ritual that Darth Vitiate did to suck all the life force out of a planet required the power of several thousand other Sith and killed them all in the process of doing it. It also took quite a bit of time. This is the same for Nihilus. Under normal circumstances, none of these characters can do shit like this. These aren't really battle-ready abilities.
This is like me saying the Death Star is the shape of a cube.
When people talk about these versus battle scenarios and they use the Sith and they start talking about shit like this, they very clearly didn't actually experience the stories where these things took place, because they would know they're not really useful at all in any way. Many people are going to really lean into the point that a lot of Sith can't die and have basically, they've gotten around it. It doesn't affect them. There are multiple ways this can be done, but most of the time it's done through essence transference, and there are Warframe that directly counter this ability, like Necros, who can literally eat all the souls in an area. He doesn't even have to aim it or anything. If someone dies in the area around him, or a soul appears in the area around him, he automatically sucks it up, consumes it entirely, and it gives him power. This is about as much of a counter to that as you could possibly have. This means characters that use this power, like Darth Nihilus and Darth Vitiate, can't. They're kind of fucked. Considering those are some of the most powerful Sith in all of Sith fiction, Star Wars fiction, that's a big fucking problem.
This is a fascinating change of pace, yeah? It has been a long time since I have had legs. I'd like to make this a permanent condition.
This body is occupied.
For now, but not for long.
What? Who are you? What is your objective?
My objective is to end you.
I think letting a Sith Lord into your body is probably a really bad idea when Nihilus and Vitiate eat millions or billions of people
in one sitting.
We are talking about beings that can look at a planet the wrong way and everything on it dies. While you have already stated that these abilities for Warframes are localized and their strongest feats are inferior to Starkiller pulling down an ISD, I think the Sith will be fine.
And for many of the Sith that straight up can't die that don't have that essence transference ability, they just basically discovered immortality, which there are a couple like that. There's some Warframe that can do the exact same thing. Valkyr, for instance, is also completely immortal, and as long as she has some form of rage and continues fighting, she can't die. You can't kill her.
All right, treat thy neighbor as thyself. Steady, Argonauts, steady. Treat him like thyself now. Oh, dad damn it.
There are also Warframes that can just outright resurrect themselves from the dead continuously, almost non-stop.
Hey, turn a blind eye. I can do this all day. Could you just give me a second before you... Okay, look, Gilmore Girl starts in about now. Okay, look, could you seriously stop it? Okay, I'm getting a little pissed off right now. Do you know who my dad is?
As well as Warframes that can resurrect other Warframes. This is something that Sith just straight up can't do.
Break the ritual now. You're too late. We have done what needed to be done. Soon, Onderon shall fall, and with it, the Republic shall die.
Freedon Nad's soul was literally destroyed by Exar Kun in Tales of the Jedi. And yet, Palpatine's soul to this very day in Star Wars has not been destroyed. He is being held in Lightside Baby Jail for all eternity by every single Jedi in existence because he simply cannot be destroyed.
Now, it is stated that certain very, very skilled Sith like Darth Plagueis can keep people from dying, but that's very different than just straight up resurrection and bringing them back from the dead. No Sith anywhere in Star Wars is said to be able to do that.
Freedon Nad, Exar Kun, Nagasado, Marka Ragnos, Darth Krayt, Vitiate, and probably a lot more Sith, as the techniques were passed down across thousands of years.
Especially now on the scale that we see someone like Jade do it, where she can literally just throw out resurrections like, again, kind of like candy corn on Halloween. And this is just kind of the way it goes as you go down the list. Every single thing the Sith can do, the Warframe, because of the variety of their powers, have some kind of counter to it. I mean, even all the way down to their weapons. The lightsabers are cool, they're like these plasma swords, they're capable of cutting through all kinds of shit, and they're super, super hot. But Warframe have just as hot as shit, and they're capable of using using that shit to block and defend against way hotter attacks like Wisp, who has the ability to literally fire the fucking sun at people. She doesn't actually fire the sun at people. She basically opens up a portal in the sun, and then the energy of the sun is released outward in this blast, but it comes directly from the sun. That is considerably hotter than anything the lightsaber can do, and you can block this attack. There's a lot of characters that can block this attack. It's not like an unstoppable insta-death move. This attack doesn't even get through most of their shielding. That's another thing. Warframes have fucking shielding. This is another big part of Star Wars that people like to ignore, but force powers don't work behind shielding.
Sir, we've lost our bridge deflector shield.
Lord Vader, the fleet has moved out at light speed and we're preparing to...
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Captain Piet.
Yes, my lord.
Make ready to land our troops beyond their energy field, then deploy the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. You are in command now, Admiral Piet.
Thank you, Lord Vader.
This is one of the reasons why the Droideka were such a fucking big deal against the Jedi, because their force powers don't work on Droidekas as long as Droidekas have shielding up.
Right.
That's far enough. How's R2 coming with that elevator?
And these ships were definitely not shielded. The entire basis of force combat is centered around adopting a personal force field, which you strike out from.
There's a little bit of weirdness with this one, because if you watch the original trilogy, there's literally a scene where Darth Vader uses force choke on a guy who's like not even on the ship he's in, so wouldn't he have to go through the shielding of both ships? And it works, but there's also so many instances of it being clearly shown that the force doesn't work on the other side of shielding. So maybe it's based on the power level of the force user. Maybe certain force users can go through the shielding and some can't. But if that's the case, it doesn't really matter. Most Sith aren't going to be top tier Sith like Vader. They're a lot weaker. They're not going to be able to use their force abilities through any Warframe who has shielding, which is the vast majority. Warframe's abilities are also considerably more potent than most Sith's abilities. Sith do have mind control, but mind control is specifically stated to only work on the weak-minded, and their way of mind controlling people is usually through long-term influencing with the Force, not just through, I want you to fucking shit yourself right now, and they just do it.
Don't want to hurt me.
I'm your friend.
Warframe characters also have mind control, but they can mind control whole groups of people in an entire area. It doesn't matter how weak-minded they are or not. They can just do it. It just is the way it is. Their potency of every one of their abilities are, for the most part, considerably more powerful. Oh, another thing about lightsabers that I just remembered, they won't be able to block a lot of the fucking bullets that the Warframe have. Yes, a lot of the Warframe's guns are just regular guns that lightsabers will be able to defend against, but many of their guns are specifically stated within this, like, lore of the story to be hit scan weapons and not fire projectiles. They automatically hit whatever they're pointed at, and they go through barriers. Like, they don't have to go through barriers because they're not projectiles. They just hit the thing that they want to hit, regardless of obstacles in the way. They just hit it anyway. That exists in this game. That means that a lightsaber putting it up to try and like block attacks from certain guns from the Warframe aren't going to do anything. They won't be able to block the guns. No projectile to block. I mean, shit, honestly, they're not gonna be able to block most of the guns because lightsabers aren't particularly good at blocking kinetic projectiles at all. The Mandalorians use kinetic projectiles against the Jedi and it really fucked them up.
Wrong. If that's the case, why did the Mandalorians lose to both the Jedi and the Sith across history?
That means even if they do have projectiles, as long as those projectiles are kinetic based, the Sith are fucked. The fucking Warframe Nihilus has the ability to use infestation powers. I said earlier in the video, have you ever seen anything about the infestation? It's fucking impressive. The infestation's infestation is insanely powerful, and there really isn't a single Sith that's gonna have any defense for it whatsoever. He basically controls the flood infection from Halo, and he could just freely deliver that shit like fucking Amazon delivery packages. Just give it out like fucking pay for it. There's so many characters I can go over in Warframe that would just fuck up whole groups of Sith. Not necessarily the absolute strongest Sith, but the vast majority of Sith aren't the absolute strongest. Most Sith aren't that great. And honestly, I could take the absolute weakest of Warframes and they could wipe out like the bottom fucking 40-50% of Sith without that much trouble. And I might have mentioned this, but I haven't leaned on it that much. But I feel like you can't underappreciate the fact that Protea can control fucking time. That's usually an insta-win when you have a character who can control time compared to a character who can't.
Here's an example of a failed Padawan dropout resisting being frozen in time. So yeah, there is probably a lesson to be learned here. Yap a lot, pretend you know what you're talking about, and in life, you'll go far. I do sincerely hope I never have to listen to another one of these videos ever again, but there's always a chance.
You didn't actually read it, did you?